So, going back on our first games, I want to go back a little bit on Tomb Raider. And, Eddie, you said you got that. That was one of the first games you
Yeah.
got. And I want to touch on something you said at the beginning, and it was the transition from your objective was to go from the left hand side of the screen to the right hand side, a la when you think of Mario Brothers or Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Like that, like I remember playing Tomb Raider as well. No, it's not the first fully 3D game I played on the PS1, but just playing something that was fully 3D, that was incredible. Like just to experience that, being able to go wherever you wanted within the boundaries of the game. But can you remember like the first time you actually like booted up that game and played it, and how it just kind of like how you reacted to it?
That's because I remember looking at the box and thinking, right, okay, didn't really take in that this was like a 3D image on the box. It was like, all right, okay, there's a woman on the box. I'm like, right, what is this? Stuck the disc in, booted it up. And then you had your intro, your wee cutscene. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it was only when you got in the game you realised, oh, this is different. This is like completely different. Because I think that might have been one of the first games you had vaulting, that you were able to climb up stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
platforming like proper
like it was more like parkour, not like a platform, but like you could run and you would grab on a ledge, and like she would get tired if you didn't pull yourself up quick enough, and she'd fall.
Yeah.
So you had like a time limit and a window to it, and it felt a wee bit more real than like the platformers and stuff. Like I remember there was different enemies you would come across down the line. Like you would come across like lions and jaguars and stuff, and
Like
you'd be sitting
T-Rex,
there.
right?
There was a T-Rex, dude. Yeah, I remember.
I remember that. Like it was really that was famous about that game. Like
It was.
you had to take down the T-Rex.
The
Holy
T-Rex,
shit.
dude. And like it was awesome. And then you had Tomb Raider 2, and they expanded on that. Peter will remember this. There was a game we all tried to do, and that was to catch the butler in the cupboard.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we tried to lock him in the freezer.
We spent forever.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Forever. You had to get this wee jump, like a double backflip out of the cupboard, or else he got out.
That was sort of like a rite of passage. That wasn't it?
It was.
You
You
really
had to
play
catch.
Tomb Raider unless you lock the
Poor
butler in
Alfred. You get Alfred in the closet there. You lock him up, and it's all good.
Yeah.
But
That man's butler, what are you doing?
the thing is, you'd hear him coming with the rattling tray and all. Like you'd hear the teacups rattling, and you're like, "Here he comes." But it was just it was a fantastic game, and it changed for me, my opinion on games. Like, and like I knew I was going into a different phase of games, because it was completely like, even from you got different guns. You went from like dual wielding pistols. That was the first game I ever was like holding two guns at once.
And it was well ahead of its time. The fact that you could run and shoot and all that as well in 3D.
Like you look at how long did it take Resident Evil to catch on to the over the shoulder.
Yeah, but the thing about Resident Evil and that stop and shoot, that was just to add more element of fear,
tension. Yes.
Yeah, tension.
Yeah. But it was like when you were even playing the game, like obviously each game is built, the mechanics is to add for the story or whatever purpose they're doing it for. But Tomb Raiders was like, I just like the fact you could explore. Like there was times like I remember I played the game and finished it, and Peter came around and he dove into this pool and then found a complete underwater chamber that I'd missed.
There was loads like that.
There was loads of secret places, and then I'm thinking to myself, I need to replay this game, because I probably missed loads, and it was just such a like, had replayable value to it. And the sound effects were amazing. There was a story, there was voice acting, there was cutscenes in it. It was awesome. I remember playing it thinking to myself, like, this was something special, you know what I mean? And I do think it did spawn a lot of clones, not so much in the sense of Tomb Raider, but that style of you're behind the character, and
because I remember getting Tomb Raider 2 was awesome as well.
Yeah, Tomb Raider. I actually didn't really enjoy Tomb Raider 1 the first time. I was more Resident Evil fan.
I do remember
I remember getting 2 and being blown away.
Because I do remember with 2, it expanded even on elements. Because I remember, Veddy, you had it later on. I remember you getting it. You got that. You had that as well. And I remember the mansion and some of the rooms, and even the outside of the mansion was slightly different from the first one compared to the second. Because the one bit I loved, remember the second one, was the obstacle course, but then you had the maze as well. You remember the hidden maze with the hidden room in it as well. That was that was deadly. And like you said, the secrets in the levels, that was definitely one of the key factors. I love that Tomb Raider 2 was probably my favourite one out of all of them on the PS1.
My favourite too. Tomb Raider 2 is
my
favourite.
Yeah.
And you know, I just want to mention 2 points about Tomb Raider. The first one being it's the first game I think really that had like a female lead.
Exactly.
And what was the other? I was going to say something else now. I've gone out of my head. But yeah, you mentioned about other games kind of copying that. You know, you think of Uncharted that more or less took that idea and ran with it. But yeah, no, Tomb Raider was a great game, I have to admit. What's your thoughts on the remakes of Tomb Raider?
I'm just going to jump in and he's going to say what I was like, but me personally, see, when I first played Tomb Raider, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I really didn't. Obviously, so with Tomb Raider,
I would agree with you. Yeah. First, I
actually did not like it. I played it, and it was like no matter where you were, everything was the same.
Visually,
everything was the same.
Well, for the first few levels, it was anyway.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
It just but obviously, as you said, Diggs, earlier on, obviously I played Resident Evil and that before, but when I played Tomb Raider, and this was supposed to be even better than Resident Evil, but I didn't like it, and I just couldn't get into it because everything looked the same. You know, there was
it was tough.
One thing for me was but I think the thing about Resident Evil that I preferred was the horror element, zombies. I liked the gameplay. I love the pre-rendered backgrounds because the mansion was amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like as you say, Steve, like Tomb Raider was quite samey visually.
Yeah, it was. If you went on to another level, green, or if you're
green and brown,
green and brown, or if you're trying to hang on to like rocks, everything's grey. It's just everything is the same. It didn't appeal to me. That's just my opinion. But going on as Tomb Raider went on in years to come, I actually did enjoy it. But at the early stages from PS1, no, I didn't. And people would go, "Oh, you have to play this, you have to play this." I'm going, I didn't enjoy it. What's wrong with you? No, I didn't like it.
It was Tomb Raider 2 for me that got me into it. I think visually it got better. Graphics it got better. The second point I wanted to make about Tomb Raider actually before we move was that it was one of the first big hitters for PlayStation 1, which really made that console the number one around, because I remember
mainstream.
Lara
Croft.
Lara Croft. She was almost like an unofficial mascot, the same way that I think Spyro the Dragon or Crash Bandicoot was, But
they even had like Rona Mitra, the actress. She became
I remember that. Yeah,
being Lara Croft in the adverts. They had her on Pepsi.
Even you going back to say like Tomb Raider 2, I actually did enjoy Tomb Raider 2 a lot better than Tomb Raider 1, because you said it spiced things up. There was changes made. Where the first one, it was just, to me, everything was the same. I just didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? With Tomb Raider 2, as you said, they changed everything. And when you go to one part from another, just say it was green or it was brown, you went to a hut, or you did different things. But in Tomb Raider 1, no, to me, everything was just, it was basic.
I love the snow levels.
I just didn't enjoy it.
I love the snow levels because you could go on the snowmobiles.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Good.
I remember in Tomb Raider 2 that when there was the first level was Venice.
Yeah.
And that's when you knew Tomb Raider 2 really
they
stepped up.
Spice it up and change things.
It really stepped up because it was graphically better.
Yeah.
It was smoother as well, and like Stephen says, there was more variety to what you were actually seeing as well.
Exactly. That's just with Tomb Raider 1. It was just all the same, and that's to me my personal opinion. That's why I just didn't.
No, I would agree with you, Steve. Tomb Raider 1, I could acknowledge that it was a great game, but it just wasn't for me. I felt the same as you. It was quite repetitive in terms of visuals and stuff like that. But gameplay, like as Mark,
gameplay, brilliant.
Those hidden levels or the hidden chambers, things like that. I thought that was amazing. But just not to stay on Tomb Raider too long, but did you enjoy the remakes?
You see,
I know they were a lot like in Uncharted style.
I didn't play a lot of them. Like I played, the problem was, I don't know, I'm older now, don't get a lot of time, so I jumped on Tomb Raider and I was like, it was good, but I don't know, I felt like it was missing something. Don't know what it was. Couldn't get into it.
No, I have to admit, from my point of view, I thought it was amazing. It was as close to Uncharted as you'd get. The only thing it didn't have what Uncharted was a great characters where they had a bit of
the humour.
You see, I think that's
back
what
and
it was
forth.
missing for me, was
It was too
personality or
serious.
something.
Yeah.
It just
At
didn't
the start
have
of it,
any-
right? Like at the start of it, it was almost like she was getting raped or something, wasn't it?
The first
Yeah.
remake, that was on the PS4, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
nearly sure it was
PS4.
PS4.
Yeah, because I know Ronnie bought that for me as a Christmas present, and I'm going, yeah, and I played it, and I actually totally enjoyed it. I really did.
I
I
actually
actually totally enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really did.
But as I say, like Uncharted was a Tomb Raider clone, and then Tomb Raider became a clone of
excelled it.
Uncharted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird how
Racing
the game
Uncharted
industry works,
excelled
isn't it?
it even more, that kind of way.
Yeah.
I think that guy, developer Corey Barlog, he's responsible for God of War 2 on the PS2 and God of War from 2018. He was like heavily involved in that Tomb Raider reboot, and that's where I think the quality came from. He's one of my favorite developers. So in terms of other games, I know Peter loved this one, Twisted Metal.
Can I say something? Sorry, Diggs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just going back to the console itself. I'm not going to stay too long on it. But can anybody remember? Now, maybe there was some games, and maybe there wasn't. But to me, I have a question mark over it. Going back to the 8-bit, 16-bit consoles, right? When you played a game, when you died, you just start back again. Was there any games that you could save and continue on? Like if there was a save option that you could save in a certain area.
16 bits.
It was only really password saves
Password
at the
saves.
at the end of levels. That was really it.
Right.
If
That's
you wanted
right.
to turn off the console, right?
Yeah, and then you enter the password. Right. Now with the PlayStation, which I thought was like looking at it, going, you play a game, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you die, you have to start back and again, just like as the old consoles. But then the memory card, and then
If you had
to
one.
buy, you had to buy a memory card, and it had 15 slots on it, and that was it, max. And any game that you played, you could save that on the memory card, and then even when you go to check the memory card, it'd show you little symbols of the game that it was playing. Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Now, there were some games that take up 2 slots, 6 slots, 4. Some of them would take up the whole fucking memory card.
Oh, was it Final
Premier
Fantasy?
Premier
took up
Manager
quite a
90,
Final
Premier
Fantasy.
Manager 98, and XCOM Enemy Unknown nearly done that.
I thought that was a great feature
Yeah.
that
XCOM, what a
you
game.
could actually save your
I
game.
love
Or
that
say
game.
if you got so far into a game and you had the memory card, like I said, not everybody had one. I don't know how much they were to buy at the time, but if you had the memory card and you could save the game, I thought that was brilliant, even for the PlayStation, where the younger consoles like a Mega Drive, SNES didn't have that. When you played the game, when you died, you had to start the whole thing again, and that's I thought was another cool feature with the PlayStation. But unfortunately, that was a separate add-on. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that was more money.
Do you remember? I think it was months before we had memory cards.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we were
you
trying
had
to
the
get
official
the,
ones, I think, at the start, and then afterwards, then
you had the cheapos as well.
The cheapo
Was it
ones,
16 megabytes was the official? Something
16,
like that.
yeah.
And then you could
it
go
was
and buy the
16,
bigger
30,
ones.
32.
The unofficial.
30.
And they were not reliable, those big
No,
ones.
they weren't reliable. I don't
Oh.
know. And many of them I bought and you plug it in and it was just corrupt. You couldn't use it. I had to throw them out. It was ridiculous.
But I remember, am I right? Yeah, so 16 megabytes was the standard PlayStation one, right? Or was it 32?
No, one
No,
mega.
no,
No,
six.
they're only 1 megabyte for the PlayStation ones for the standard. That's all
1
it was.
megabyte?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But the PlayStation 2 now is 8 megabytes are standard, and then you could go up to 16 and 32. I think the PlayStation
Oh, right.
1, I think it did allow you to go up a wee bit more, but it was very, 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 very seldom that it allowed you to do that. Just they physically couldn't do it without
You're
some
right.
sort of
It's
issue.
only 120 kilobytes, 128 kilobytes. Oh my god!
I know
thought
it
they
was.
were bigger. Yeah, no, but like,
Damn.
no, that's fine. Yeah, because I mean, I thought they were bigger. Yeah, you're right. Oh yes, it was PS2. You could start buying the bigger ones,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
I think the max on the PS2 went up to 128
Because I remember
megabytes.
at one point we had about 10 different memory cards. We had to have
I know.
because
Oh,
we
did
had,
that-
It was just, you were
that was
screwing
the
through like a deck
Tenor
of
back then.
yeah,
cards.
because I do
Yeah.
remember we had
You know what I mean?
we had to keep 1 or 2 memory cards for it because you and Steve O'Dig had files in both Premier Manager and XCOM.
I
So
know,
we had to have a memory card each for each of those games because you know yourself,
that's
if you
crazy.
lost everything, you literally would have lost everything, and that was it. So we had to we had to dedicate, because I remember we had to have the wee labels on them, and we had to make sure that they were for
What
such and
said
such a
they
game.
were.
Yeah, and keep them.
And so
for
I
those
remember the
games.
PS1 where you had to save your game, which was a brilliant feature. But it said it was an add-on that you had to spend more money to to do that. I said not everybody was able to do it, so it was just going back to the old school, play, and hopefully you complete the game in one sitting. And tough.
Yep. So we move on. As I said, Peter, one of your favourite games, Twisted Metal. Well, let's talk about Twisted Metal 2.
How many is that?
We think that was the best one, right? Twisted Metal 2.
Well, I never really played the first one as such. I never really played the first time I experienced the first one was in, say, Eddie's house. It was actually a rolling demo on that demo one disc.
The demo, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then say a couple of months later when we started, remember we used to rent the PlayStation out at the weekends and stuff. Remember we had a couple of, because I still have the very first demo disc I ever bought. I have it here in the house, and I had Excalibur 2555 AD. There was Monster Trucks. There was Porsche Challenge, and there was a 2-player demo of Micro Machines. Ved, you'd remember that because I took down that demo a couple of times. We used to play Micro Machines. Yeah,
I remember drifting around the toilet seat.
Yeah.
Was that 3D?
And there was the Micro Machines V3. Yeah,
that's what it was.
And the first experience with Twisted Metal, I remember the demo 1 CD that you had, and there was a rolling demo on it. But it was a couple of months later then we started renting out the PlayStation. I remember one weekend and we got Twisted Metal 2, and oh my god, that game was freaking awesome for me.
That was the cloud face on top of the ice cream machine.
Sweet Tooth. One of the best multiplayer games ever.
Car combat games.
And what was cool about it was the fact that you played it split screen. Now, you can only play 2-player generally because of the way it was set up, but it didn't matter because you could play a co-op with the campaign, but you could also play a deathmatch, and that's why we used to play a deathmatch the whole time. But for me, it was the levels, because there was so many little tricks and hidden areas and secrets that because there was walls that looked like there was just a brick wall, but yet you could actually drive through it into a secret room.
Wasn't there a thing you could blow up the Eiffel Tower and there was something on top of the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, and if you blew up the Eiffel Tower, it actually unlocked you other secrets so that you could get on top of the buildings further over on the other side of the level.
Right.
I remember that was one of your big
Very, I guarantee you, Sweet's got that.
Oh, I did. I became so addicted to that game that I wanted to make sure I found every secret possible in the game.
Guaranteed he does.
Oh yeah. I remember myself.
I think we all probably would have had a go at it.
Myself, Steve, one of our other brothers, younger brothers. He was flat out. Used to play it a lot with us as well, and he was addicted to it too. And I know. Actually, got to the point we rented that game out a couple of times because we thought it was that good.
Yeah,
it was definitely a blast every weekends for sure.
I think it's fair to say it's probably like up there.
Oh, it rank up there.
Maybe not as highly as Mario Kart, but definitely up there for fun.
In terms of the PlayStation multiplayer games, it is definitely up there.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that it doesn't exist anymore. I know they've made later versions of the game, but it's
like there was later sequels that were added to the PS3, like Twisted Metal 3 and was Twisted Metal.
Yeah,
there was a couple of other different ones added.
Was there Black or something?
That was in the PS2, but there was a couple of other ones. There was a couple of other spin-off ones like Twisted Metal Small Brawl that came out later on in the PlayStation.
Yeah,
but
just didn't hit.
To be honest, everybody says it that once after the second one, that was it. It just died. It was non-existent after that. Like there is people that are fans of the third game, but they even said that the third game is nowhere near as good. Twisted Metal 2 or World Tour is the definitive version. If anything, it's still considered to be the best car combat game of all time on any console. Even modern games. Modern games can't seem to.
Well, Mario Kart is sort of a car combat, but it's a good one.
It's more of a.
Twisted Metal's not so cool.
It's nearly number one Mario Kart.
Am I right in saying that they're developing a Twisted Metal movie or something?
Apparently they are.
Why don't they make a Twisted?
They're basing around the character Sweet Tooth.
Everything about the fucking game and going, that's all you need to do. Just talk to him.
No, I was talking to someone recently and they said that there's a movie, but they're focusing on Sweet Tooth, on his origins or something like that.
That's what I thought. That's
Rob Zombie did direct it.
Exactly. That's what you need.
That exactly. Now you've hit the nail on the head, definitely.
That was one of the things that I loved about the PlayStation, was the fact that all these franchises were coming out, but the fact is that it was the characters that they developed throughout all of these games. Like with Resident Evil, you had Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, you had Lara Croft with Tomb Raider, you had the Twisted Metal game, Sweet Tooth being primarily the dominant character in that game, and then there was so many other ones. Like there was even like with Solid Snake and Metal Gear Solid, you had the likes of even the Siphon Filter games, if you've
I
ever
was going to
played
mention
them.
Siphon Filter.
The Gabe
I can't think
Logan.
of his name.
Yeah, Siphon Filter fights. The first 3 Siphon Filter
Classic.
games are epic. They're my favourite in the whole series.
Then you think of the Tekken series,
and then
like,
the Tekken series,
kind of individuals.
let's just say, like, you look at the Tekken games, more specifically, the characters in the 3 Tekken games, like you had Kazuya, you had Heihachi, you had,
you knew everybody at one stage. I
and
don't
then even
remember
with
them
Tekken
now,
3,
but
and
you knew them all.
I can't believe you are forgetting about King. Come on,
King, yeah.
King was
King,
he
yeah.
was amazing.
I used to love just using Eddie Gordo or your man Harang in Tekken
go
3.
away.
Eddie Gordo, yeah.
It was because I knew I
I
could beat
remember
everybody
Nancy.
into it, you know.
I remember Nancy kicking me like 9 straight matches with Eddie Gordo. She just wiped the floor. She used to sit there and I'd be like, "Stop spinning on your head," and she'd be like, "No," and she just kicked the life out of me.
Yeah.
I tried every character under the sun, couldn't get her. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I always found out with Tekken that if I just mashed the buttons, I had a good chance of beating someone because that's all.
I absolutely love Tekken 3. It's probably my favourite fighting game on the
best
PS1.
one. The best one.
Yeah. And when you think like one of the biggest games, like I think of all time, actually, yous all loved that. It took me a long time to get into it. Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I was the same before.
Monster of a game.
But it was actually you originally took it down. I remember one Sunday evening down to the house, and you had really gotten into it. And you're like, "Lads, I'm only have to get in this new game, blah blah blah," and hold on. And I remember sitting looking at it. I was like, I like the look of it. I love the pre-rendered backgrounds, like, because it's very similar to Resident Evil. I loved all
the
this
steampunk
stuff.
kind of.
But I just, for some reason, I just couldn't get into it. Now, Steve, Steve was sat there, and he really hated it. Yeah, and I remember
I couldn't get into it at the start. I remember.
One of our other
I think
brothers.
you went down to Eddie's house and then suddenly you come back like this is my favourite game
one
of
of the
all
other
time.
brothers now as well, alongside he was there sitting watching. He was glued to the TV. He you know which one I'm on about.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Damien. He was there in the room and he was glued to the TV because he considers that and Ocarina of Time, Zelda, to be probably his 2 favourite games of all time, because he's a RPG fanatic. Even Diggs will tell you.
You see, the thing about Final Fantasy VII was, although it wasn't open world, there was so many like little hidden quests and secrets you could do. So many characters you could meet. Like there was that girl Yuffie.
Yeah.
Like the first time I finished it, I didn't get her on my team. You know what I mean? I missed out on that completely. And I ended up having to play it again. And like I remember even like when you'd have to fight that boss under the water in the submarine. Do you remember that, Steve?
Yeah.
It was a lot of diversity.
Playing it. Well, sorry. No, you finish what you're saying.
I was just saying there was a lot of diversity to what you did, and even the wee mini games and stuff.
Yeah, there definitely was.
Chocobo races.
Dude, that almost gave me a gambling problem.
I always even remember when Freddie, you took the PlayStation down to our house and did Final Fantasy. I mean, literally, I had no interest in Final Fantasy. I'm going, no. And there was one particular, it could have been the next day or it could have been a few hours later, I don't know. But he's right outside playing. I was in the house anyway, and I threw on the PlayStation. I said, "Joel, I'm going to give this a go." I started playing it, and I'm going, no. But as the game progressed, and I'm watching all the subtitles and everything, and the story and the whole, I'm going, this game ain't half fucking bad. And you know what? Before I knew it, I was addicted to it.
Yeah.
And there's one point I will always remember. I don't think you ever will. There was a boss called Odin in the Cosmo Canyon.
I do.
Yeah, you were stuck on him and you had the PlayStation down in our house.
Yeah.
You couldn't get past him. I played the game. I got past him.
Yeah.
There you go. I did it for you.
I think everybody in this podcast at one point or another had Betty get past the certain
because here's the sly thing, right? Here's what you didn't realise.
He was playing it before I was.
But here's the thing you didn't realise. When I got stuck in a video game, I go, I'll just bring the console down to the bunch. That's sort of fun.
Well, when you think about it, that's usually what happens. Yeah.
No, do I call the Terminator or do I call Steve-O? Who do I call? One of the two of them will do it.
But I tell you, it got to a stage I loved the game. I actually was addicted to the game.
Yeah, you were. No, I remember. Me and Peter were not a fan of it.
No, we weren't.
It was this game.
It was. I really truly wasn't. No way. But as time went on, I mean, literally, fantastic game. I actually got addicted to it.
It was the turn-based
And
combat.
I'll confess, when I eventually gave it a go, yes, I was absolutely.
For me, it was the turn-based combat
game.
because I was used to playing the likes of Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, where you had some level of control and you could move, choose to attack and move, and choose to attack, and then you could just run around the place or run past enemies. But you couldn't do that with Final Fantasy. It was random. You go and then the fact is then when you were in the battle, then it was turn-based, and that's what kind of drove me mad. But like all the rest is everybody here, it was one of those games I knew I had to sit down. Now it took me about 2 years to do it, but I remember getting it and I remember sitting down with it. Now I never finished the game, but I did finish the first disc on it. But I remember for at least a month solid, I played the hell out of that game. I did really get addicted to it, and it was only then I kind of started to appreciate it and respect it, because I was like, now I can see why all the boys put so much time into it, why they love it as much as they do. And it's only now when I look back, I'm the same. I do love the game because it's not until you play it that you get to respect it for what it is.
Like, I watched it and it was more or less like going, no, this isn't for me. It's a game you have to play.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't until I played it and I went, holy beep, then you can realise what this game can give you.
Exactly.
And it's phenomenal. It gives you so much. It is a fantastic.
Yeah, for me, it was one
game.
of the first kind of like really deep games that was developed, like in terms of your story campaign, side missions, the world, the audio, the amount of dialogue in it. And am I right in saying you could choose what to reply with, or was it automatic?
There was certain times you could choose.
Yeah, certain times. It wasn't all the time. It was certain times. Yeah.
The only thing is, I think the initial thing that put me off the game was those random battles.
Yeah.
And you went from being I was a person that just liked to explore, and you couldn't explore without getting into a fight, and I was like, this is doing my head in.
I thought that myself, but as the game went on, I played it.
Once you learn how to play
me because see, when I get a game that I know I can level up and upgrade my character and upgrade my magic and weapons, and that's what I was doing. I'm going, bring it on. I kept doing it, I kept doing it, and I kept doing it.
Did anybody here finish the game?
I did.
Right, I did.
I'll give you one. Sorry, Diggs. I'll give you
go
one.
Ahead.
You, Freddy, you had the PS1 had 3 discs. Yeah, you were so far ahead before I started playing. I was on the second disc. You were still on the second disc, and I'm going, Eddie, can you give me the third disc, please? You're still on the second disc. Give me the third disc, please, will you? Please. I'm nearly fighting the boss. I said, we had our own PlayStation at the time. Can I get a little of the third disc? I was way ahead of you at that stage.
You were mad. I remember having to come back going, here, Steve, you got that third disc? And you're like, I'm finished it. Here you go.
I had to ask you, please, can I have Lennon? I'm ahead of you, please. I take it?
I think what happened was when I asked for the third disc, you asked for the first disc again.
I think I fucking started playing it again.
Start going again, yeah. Actually, that's right. I remember you starting all over again.
Yeah, I did. I actually did.
But
I got
there's so much I missed out on, and I wanted to play the game to see could I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Plus, like going back to the era, it was you used to buy the magazines, and the magazines would be like, if you go to this town and you fight this guy, you got this materia, and this materia give you this, and you were like, oh, how did I miss that? And then you were like, I need to go back and play it again, and it was just awesome. And like when you were talking about the turn-based combat, I loved it because I was a major fan of XCOM. I love those games because it was about strategy, and although the randomized battles and the way where you were going, they were annoying, but when you got into the big boss battles, it was an element of strategy to what you do, because you had to pick your, you had to ration out your magic and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And there was certain like moves. I can't remember what there were certain moves affected. Except it affected the enemy greater, right? Yeah. You had to. I was right in saying you had to load up your character as well. Certain ways to go into battles.
You did. So if you were going into a battle against, like, for example, if you were going into, like, if you were in a place that was all fire enemies, you would try and get them loaded up with ice material.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And if ice, you'd want fire. And it was kind of all that. And if you were fighting, say, electrical or robotic enemies, you'd equip lightning bolts. You know what I mean?
Water.
Lightning or water. Yeah, boom. Electrocute them. Boom.
Yeah. There's some. You have to admire the development of that game.
Yeah.
just the depth they
Yeah.
went to, like
Yeah.
incredible. Because I know there was like when you think about it, it's Final Fantasy VII, so there was obviously 6 before, but I know a lot of them were like Nintendo based, right? Never played
Yeah.
those, but
Yeah,
they were
'cause
more like Zelda kind of.
7 was the
Yeah.
first game of
Yeah.
the series to be on the PlayStation. And
Was
to
it the
be in
first one to
fully
go
3D.
3D?
Yeah.
I think so, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And those FMV sequences as well, and that was pretty
Oh,
fantastic.
phenomenal. Amazing.
The what I even loved about it even more, the material you got, just say you had cure, you had fire, you had ice, and you had lightning.
Yeah.
That was only the first part. Then you had cure 1, cure 2,
3.
cure 3, lightning, 1, 2, 3, fire. And everything, it just got stronger and stronger. Then you got other material that did other things. It opened up a whole new world to me, because it just was phenomenal. A game that I thought I would never actually like, these turn-based styles fighting. But once I got into it, that was it.
Plus, when you got your
couldn't
summon materia, like you got
that
Ifrit,
was brilliant.
Ifrit and Shiva and
Odin and
Quasagotl, and it was
even
awesome.
the Chocobo ones.
Yeah.
It was, they was deadly. They were deadly. They really were. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very,
I was
very
just
good.
thinking
Loved
there,
it.
just when we're talking about Final Fantasy VII, just kind of for me the way we're talking about it, it feels like it's almost like a sales pitch. Like if I was doing my YouTube stuff, oh yeah, if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description below. Go and check it, go and buy it.
I actually bought
I got to
the original on it.
Which? Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I played it again, and I enjoyed it every much as I did back in the PS1.
Yeah. You mean on
Really
you bought it for what, your PS4 was it?
On PS5, when I see
Oh,
the
yeah.
store, and I
Yeah,
see Final Fantasy.
Did you play the remake
Yeah,
one? No.
Yeah, love it.
I played the demo of
I
the
played the
remake
demo
one,
as
but
well, yeah.
I
I
have
played
it
it.
there on my games list to play. but
I
never-
do intend to play it
I have it
someday.
here on disc if you want it.
I haven't finished.
No,
it.
I have it on my games list. It's
Yeah,
Oh, right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
I intend to play
Trust
it
me,
someday.
I didn't think I would like it, but trust me,
It's
the first one was
pretty
But
good.
the turn-based combat's
This one-
gone, right? It's all full-on hack and slash now, is it? Am I right in saying that?
It's not all hack and slash.
It's kind of
It's hack and slash if
50-50.
you want to use your weapon
Right.
as such. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
I just remember playing the demo, and you know that boss you fight,
Yeah.
and it's 30 minutes long, and I was like,
Yeah.
I thought, no, no, I don't want to be fighting a boss for 30 minutes.
Listen, I remember playing Metal Gear Solid 4 and a cutscene. I fell asleep.
know.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, I remember
I
that.
did too.
Yeah.
That's why I've never gone back to Metal Gear.
was
I
Sweet standing
enjoying
over you to
4.
take over?
Pete, I should have had Peter there. You could talk
I'd say was he
to
standing over you to take over when you
No,
fell
he
asleep?
wasn't. I was shaming him.
Because I guarantee he would have.
He would have.
No,
He
not
should have
not
tagged him in.
not in that game. Not with those cutscenes.
No,
Like,
I remember
it was nuts.
and it's those cutscenes with what was his name?
Otacon.
No? Otacon. You know where you're up in the ship
Yeah.
and there's the wee girl and she's like making eggs and stuff like that, because it was like a comic book, wasn't it? There was
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
screens.
That game was awesome,
And
though. I will admit. Brilliant.
It was.
Brilliant
I
game.
was really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Enjoying it. And then there was one night I stuck it on like at 9 o'clock at night. And
Me
the
too.
next thing was like an in between intro, you know, or an FMB or whatever. And I just fell asleep on the couch playing it, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. I was like, these cutscenes are way too long. And
Yeah.
I never went back to Metal Gear after that.
Yeah.
Sadly.
It's a shame, but
Yeah.
it sometimes too much is too much, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I haven't played the Phantom Pain or
No.
the
I
what
played the
shorter
demo of it, but it was just like you know, it's a weird thing. I played the demo of it, and it felt clunky by today's standards.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. For the Phantom Pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, it felt a bit clunky by like what we would consider like a game now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think-
Whereas if you, yeah,
Yeah. I think
I
there's
haven't
there's a
played-
rumor, isn't it, that the MGS1, Metal Gear Solid 1 is being remade, right?
Oh, I hope so.
I think so, or else
I haven't played the Metal Gear Solid until or since the PS1 version. I loved that
Yeah.
one that much, and
I love the first one. And like the stupid thing is that I love the first one so much
I
that
haven't
I
played
didn't play
another
the
one.
second or
There's something to
third.
beat it.
did you
Yeah.
not play the second one? No.
No, no, sorry, I tell a lie. I did play them. I never really got into them. Like Sons of Liberty, you start off as Raiden, isn't it?
Yeah.
You played the whole game as Raiden.
Yeah, the whole game
Oh,
is
is it?
and
Right,
then there's
well,
the
yeah.
side
you just
side
couldn't get into
story
it,
is you play Snake
Yeah.
later on.
No, so
Yeah, and
I couldn't say-
I never really
I-
give it a chance.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as Diggs.
I finished the
Different
third
ones
one
you
2
can't
or 3
compare it to the
times.
first one. If it's not like the first first one.
Yeah.
It just said no.
So I went from the first one to the fourth.
The third one I played, I finished about 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Yeah, I never played the third one.
That's Big Boss, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Mark?
No, I was just saying, like, the second one, like, I turned it on, I was expecting Snake, and it wasn't Snake, and I was like... And they do the fake out at the beginning, because you come up an oil rig out of a sub, and you're thinking, oh, here it comes again. And it's like, you see this, like, blondie head dude, and you're like, what the hell? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But as the story went on, I got gripped by the story.
Yeah.
And then
that's the big seller, I think, with those games. That franchise.
Yeah, I got gripped by the story. I forgot all about Snake, and then Snake comes into it, and then I was like, oh wow, this is even getting better now, you know. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't, how could I say, it didn't feel like Metal Gear Solid 1, but that necessarily wasn't a bad thing for me, because I enjoyed the overall, the way the story went in the end, where it all sort of came together in the end. It was good for me, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah. You think about it, even going back to the PS1, Metal Gear Solid 1, and being honest with you, it was actually like so real looking to everyone else, and everything was so real. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you look at the game and say if you're running through the snow, you see the footprints and you're trying to hide, but enemies are looking at your footprints and they follow the footprints, and then all of a sudden you're just hiding behind the corner, and then all of a sudden beep, you know what I mean, then they come after you, you know what I mean, and then all of a sudden if you're hiding, say, in a cardboard box, or you're just hiding, then all of a sudden if you move, it'll flash to know you're there. It was just so real. It was brilliant. It really was.
Absolutely.
It was so real life. It just made the game more exciting, that you really had to think straight away. It's just off the bat, bump, bump. I know I can't do this. I have to be more stealth. You know, I can't leave footprints.
They had that music too. The music to accompany that when you got busted, it was dun dun dun. Dun, dun, and you were like, oh god, I gotta hide.
We never experienced that in older games, but when it came to the PS1, it changed everything. It really did. It opened your eyes to saying games like this, it's just going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a couple more games I want to just point out, just briefly talk about. The first one, I think, we all love survival horror, so the first one I want to talk about is Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And obviously Silent Hill 1, I mean, it's the only one I think that came out on PS1, right? And I just remember playing that game for the first time, and this was it came out after Resident Evil 1, right?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it did, yeah. So
99.
Yeah, and I remember playing the game, and the magazines were hyping it up to be a Resident Evil beater and stuff like that, and obviously I was like, wow, I gotta play this. Well, I wasn't prepared for that game. I
don't think anyone was.
It was so scary, that
game.
I mean, it was a really dark game, like.
Yeah.
Where, like,
Resident
Evil 1 was like a Scooby-Doo episode compared to this.
The one where you were in the school
looking
for battery. Dude, I still...
Yeah, like Silent Hill starts it off, you play as, what's his name, Harry, isn't
Harry
it?
Mason.
Harry Mason. His daughter goes missing.
Yeah.
So he goes to Silent Hill looking for her, and he starts off like he's on the streets. All the exits are blocked off from the town. He can't get out, so he's no choice but to go searching around the town. And I think one of the first places you go is the school, right? Yeah. But the creep. Oh no, you start off in a like a cafeteria, isn't it? Like
yeah,
and that's where you go from there. You wake up there and you go out and you start exploring, but all the exits for the town are blocked off.
You eventually get to the school at some point.
And you get to the school, but the freakiest thing about that game was you find a radio in the dino.
Yeah.
And every time you come close to an enemy, the static goes off in it.
And
it's so freaky. It's such a tension build up.
Yeah, you hit the nail the head out that radio. That's exactly what's going through my head. Once you get the radio,
then you have the fog. Yeah, you have the fog that's kind of obscuring your view, and the closer you get, the louder the radio static gets, and the clearer the fog becomes. You're like, no.
You don't know which way he's coming from.
It was intense enough when you were outside when it was just the fog, but then when it would change over to like the nightmare side, and especially when you were in the school, because the problem you had was all the rooms looked the same, and you were just like, where do I go? What do I do? And then when you heard
so dark, and the flashlight was your only way of
everything was
things.
rustic. Everything was rusted because it was abandoned. Everything it was
only
freaky.
Right, Resident Evil scared me, but there was only one other game for me that unnerved me nearly as much as Silent Hill did, and that was that game Hell Knight. Remember that one I had, Dick?
Yeah, I was going to say the
comparison,
comparison, because the Hell Nightmare version of Silent Hill was basically Hell Knight took that kind of look.
Yeah, because you had one lone enemy that literally was following you the whole time, and the further into the game you got, the monster kept mutating, so it was even stronger and faster. But it just, between that and Silent Hill, those are the first two games that had that real psychological element that, like you said, really got under your skin. It actually got to a point you turned the game off, you wouldn't want to play it again because it scared you that much.
It scared me, because I don't think I played that Hell Knight. Not to scare me, I don't think I played it.
I just remember you boys having it.
I turned on Hell Knight, and that was me. I noped out of it after like 20 minutes. I was like, no.
So I remember I actually bought it cheap now. Funny enough, it's not cheap now.
If you YouTube it, Steve-O, you'll recognise it.
The funny thing is, it's not going for cheap now. If you're to buy a copy of it now online, it's ridiculous. You pay a couple of £100 for it. But I remember buying it only for a tenner in one of the local shops. You remember in town was at Cassidy's, and I bought it for like only a tenner in it. And the thing is, the crazy thing about it is, had your man known how rare that game was, he could have made a lot more money on it. But he only sold it for a tenner. But that game was worth an absolute fortune, and it is worth a fortune now, which is crazy.
Yeah, look, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
That's it.
You know, I remember having Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, and it was the double disc version, the one with the soundtrack and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realise that thing was worth a lot of money. And I stuck it on eBay years ago, but it was eBay.ie, so it was only to Irish sellers. And then all these guys were messaging me how much to take that off the thing and give it. I'll buy it right now. And I thought, what's going on here? Like why are they so eager to get this game? I went on to ebay.co.uk and I could see that game was flying for over £100.
Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh. So straight away, withdraw it, can no longer find the disc, can't sell it, right? And I managed to get my account to be on ebay.co.uk as well, and I think I made like £100 on that. Do you remember, Peter, we were at the Christmas party for work one year, and next minute my phone was hopping. I was getting all these notifications,
Bids.
another bid, and I think I made like £100 selling it.
Yeah, you did,
You know, I'd say it's worth even more now. When you
it's one of the most sought after games of all time, so it is at the minute.
Absolutely. But you know, going back to Silent Hill, I just like the game was phenomenal actually, and it definitely, if Konami set out to like challenge Resident Evil, they well and truly challenged Resident Evil.
Yeah, they were the only ones really at the time to really kind of better Resident Evil in terms of what they presented, and they definitely
there's no doubt they challenged Resident Evil big time. No doubt.
Yeah, I just thought Silent Hill was definitely one of my favourites, and I think that's why I never played Silent Hill 2, because it came out on the PS2, and I think when the PS2 came out I wasn't really into gaming at the time, so it kind of bypassed me. So I am looking forward to the Silent Hill 2 remake that's coming out.
I'll give you my opinion. See, when Silent Hill first got into PS1, I knew survival horror, obviously played Resident Evil and that, and it was scary, but I actually hadn't played it. I actually had more enjoyment watching things you play it, Smiths you playing it, and then got to know what it was about and blah blah, and then see when I got to play it myself, then I got to really feel how scary the game was. But the enjoyment was there by just watching. But that's how good the game was, because you could watch it and play it, and you'd still get the same enjoyment.
I found the same with Resident Evil. I'd be happy to watch
same as Resident Evil. I could watch anybody, and that's how much.
I had no choice but to watch Pete play Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Well, none of us had.
On your console.
But I do remember every weekend when we didn't have the PlayStation for that year in '97, and we rented out every weekend, and we had to get Resident Evil every single weekend without fail.
Yeah,
and that was the thing about it. And you know what the cool thing about it was, like, say our folks would go out for a night out or whatever, they go off to the pub for the night, and we'd be left to buy us a load of stuff like sweets, biscuits, and the whole lot, like we'd just be gorging on junk food and just playing games. And the thing is, it wasn't just me, you, and Steve who was in the room. We had all our younger brothers, and there was a couple of times you were down there as well with us, and we had a couple of other people there as well from time to time who would come in, and we just all sat in the living room watching someone play Resident Evil. And what happened was, at certain points,
even 8 or 9 of us,
there
in one room and just watching one person play.
And we'd all be kind of helping each other outside trying to figure out the puzzles, and everybody was engrossed in it. Everybody was sitting watching. Everybody was enjoying just watching Resident Evil being played. And
they were great times.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like when we got stuck on a certain point, there was always one of us that could do one part better than the other person. Like, say if it got to a certain boss or whatever, we'd hand the controller around. Right, Peter, you do that. Right, Dig, you do that, or vice versa. versa, that kind of way. Or one of the other boys would be able to do a certain part, and we'd all kind of hang over. And then until we
that was
died,
the best part.
Until we died, and then we realised because we didn't know memory card, like, oh, but it didn't stop us. We go and play the game again.
Well, you think about it. There's times that we didn't have a memory card, and we
Yeah.
say finished a Resident Evil game, or we finished such a game. But see, like what we're talking about now, like Resident Evil, say Silent Hill, and there's other games.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room got involved. Everybody was engrossed in the game. But that'll tell you how good of a game it was, because everybody was so engrossed in it. Everybody was happy, even though they weren't playing.
Yeah.
Like say, I'd say to you, you missed one thing. Diggs could say to you, if you were playing, you missed one thing, blah blah blah. Everybody was helping everybody. It's just, it was, that'll tell you how good of a games they were.
But actually,
I'll give you a perfect example of it. Do you remember when I was running to get the game completed in under 3 hours to get the rocket launcher? Everybody was watching, like Peter or Steve,
No
you were
pressure.
there, and it was like, yeah, but you were like, everybody was involved. It was like, don't forget, you have to go here and get that.
I do remember that. We were always kind of keeping
working into strategy. Go from here to there and get this. And
It
get
was
that.
the quickest way to go. To
and then do you remember when I finally did it? I got the rocket launcher, and we were like, "We've no memory card. We can't turn this off."
I do remember that.
We went to play it.
Oh.
Yeah,
but
exactly. We couldn't fucking turn it off.
But going
we
back,
didn't want to turn the console off because that's it. You'd lose the rocket launcher. You just wanted to play the game, but you were so exhausted after rushing through it to get the rocket launcher.
But just going back to, like, to say with Betty and with Steve, you were the ones to actually find the thing for the proper ending, and he's actually found it by accident. You remember that? I remember Steve was telling me he was staying over in your house that weekend. It was about a couple of weeks after, or a month or two after it. And what happened was he's actually forgot. It was the bit where Barry and Jill had fallen down the hole in the floor after killing the snake. Usually the first instinct was always to go down into the basement. But I remember Steve was telling me
you have a headstone in front of you, and normally you press button.
Instead of actually going down there, the two of you started talking. I remember Steve was telling me this, and he's completely forgot about it because you were chatting about something, and then all of a sudden after about 2 minutes,
he tells you to wait, but nobody waits.
And after about a minute, then suddenly the thing plays, and then that's where you kind of copped on. Oh, what's going on here? You know, so it's funny how we found things just by chance in that game as well. That was a really cool
I remember
thing about
that night like it was yesterday, because you rang the house.
Yeah.
And you were like,
I remember that.
After finding this, and we're like, what's wrong? We don't know what you're talking about.
We were all just as excited as each other.
I can remember if it was yesterday.
Yeah, but there was that room, right? That room where, like, how did we get into that room? And then suddenly you found it by accident.
It was only then we figured out that we could actually save Barry at the end, that he was still alive by the end of the game. We're like, yes, finally did it, you know.
I was I remember getting the bad ending first. I was actually in Peter's house, and I got Jill, and we went up to the roof. I was playing as Chris, and then I realised I have no bullets in my gun, and the tyrant jumps out.
I remember that. The first time I'd ever seen the man.
I killed him with a knife, but it was like 20 minutes of pure anxiety, bro. I swear to God.
I don't know what's everybody's bubble.
But thing is, though, Peter was there going, he goes to the left, watch what side his hand's on, make sure you're on the opposite side. And I was like, right. I was like, and Peter was like, get to the left. And I was like, okay. I was like constantly switching.
Military strategy.
If Smeets hadn't been there, I probably would have died. He kept going, you're on the wrong side, get over to the other side. And I was like, right.
That was the thing. Because it was all teamwork with that game. We all kind of did help each other out with it. That was what was
it. But not even just that game, just any game. We used, like, you think about it, like there was a minimum 5 people at one time in the room. Somebody playing the PlayStation and the rest watching. And like they were happy to watch. Like that was the beauty of it back then. I always remember, like, say you mentioned it there when your mother and father would go out at the weekend and they'd leave all the junk food around, and I remember like one room would
let us buy or say right at the PlayStation, whatever. That was us sorted.
One room, usually the living room with the PlayStation we plugged in there, and we'd all be playing it because the TV was bigger, right? Then upstairs the Mega Drive or the Master System, whatever you owned, would be on. Somebody would be playing that. It was like a gamer's hub.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Thank God there was no internet back then, so you'd be fucking, I would say, you maxed out at this stage.
That's it, But that, I think they were much simpler times, before
much simpler, much better, man.
Absolutely.
Like I used to look forward
no mortgages or rent to
I know, right?
But
But like,
just
I
go
used to
back
just
there
even
now.
go ahead.
Sorry, just going back there now. As you said, it was much simpler or much easier. It was just like you play a game and you had X amount of people watching it, playing the game, even though they weren't playing it, but they were still enthralled, still happy. See, like now, if someone's playing the game, nobody cares if you're playing the game. No one's going to sit there and watch you because it's PS4, PS5, blah blah. They'll sit there and go, after comments, they're gone.
I tried live streaming a few times. No watchers. Peter, you're the only one.
You think about it, back to PS1,
Yes,
you had everybody watching it.
I live
streamed
streamed Destiny once, and all I got was people going, "Dude, you suck." I was just like, "Cheers, man, thanks." That was a real self-esteem builder. Yeah, it probably was.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I'm not like that.
No, but like here, hang on, we're forgetting one game on the PlayStation: right. Pro Evolution Soccer ISLS.
Oh yes.
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. I was. That's why I was being quiet.
Forget about this.
Yeah, Pino. No, the only reason why is because Mark still has never beaten me in Pro Evo 98.
No, that's bullshit.
No, you never beat me. You've never beat me in that. No, you didn't beat me. You didn't beat me. That specific game.
Oh right, you're going on a technicality now.
But you did beat me on the ones in the PS2.
There's always a technicality with Smeets.
Oh, Smeets, I swear to God.
Always.
Because what always happened was there was loads of times when you did. There was loads of times when you did get close to beating me, and I'd always score in injury time or I'd beat you in penalties. And I remember you used to. I wouldn't mind. I used to always be the one. I used to always be the one that would get angry or get annoyed when I was playing. I get so into it. But the thing is, when I beat you, you would actually get dead. You'd actually turn around and start punching me then every time. So you would.
Oh, dude, I swear. I remember, like, me and Diggs, I think it was a Pro Evo 2.
Yeah, that's like, why he beat us.
You left, and me and Diggs goes, we have to fucking get him.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he was beating us all the time, you know.
It's like, we have to sort this out.
Yeah, because I bet this for a good while before.
Yeah. Peter, that was probably at your point where you were you could have been a pro gamer because you were just like, you were so into it, you know.
Yeah.
That was your motivation.
I was for me. I was not only addicted, but I was super competitive. Probably too competitive for my own good.
I think I would have been prior to that, but I kind of
now. If you get the proper game that we're all playing.
No. I won't even play Elden Ring or Bloodborne. I like the look of them, but I will not entertain them because anything that takes me a million hits to kill someone and then they kill me one hit.
Well, they are extreme games.
I don't play them.
They are extreme.
I had that issue with Batman Arkham Asylum. Like I said, it was the first time I actually got that angry that I nearly broke the controller, and I said after that never again.
So did I.
Yeah.
I get the platinum.
If I shot you with 20 bullets,
I still got the platinum in it. It was the second platinum I ever got on the PS3, but I said never again.
Right, well,
if I shot you with, or if you shot me with 20 bullets and I shot you with 21, that 21 bullet fucking, or 21st bullet got you, you'd still be crying. That one bullet got me.
I know.
I pressed the button.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? There was no winning with him. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't.
One more game.
I was
one more game.
I was just ridiculously competitive.
I tell you, right, I heard the best ever rage quit ever. I'm not going to mention his name here because he's a friend of mine. You Diggs, you know him. Right. He's our Liverpool friend that hangs out with the Newcastle guy. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So he got in double trouble in one day because number one, he went out and bought FIFA. Right, and he didn't tell the missus. He snuck it on the credit card. The other goes, I went and bought FIFA, mate. Got new FIFA, right? So we were all playing FIFA with him, and then he was like, "Oh, you messing me? How you get me from there? How you scoring from there?" Yeah. And he was cracking up, right? And next of all, we heard like a poof, and then oh no. And then I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, mate, I'm dead. I gotta go." And I was like, "What?" He rage quit because my friend Jay scored, right? He spiked the controller into the ground and it flew up and broke the telly.
Jesus.
So not only did he get killed for buying a fucking video game, he had to go buy a new TV as well.
Oh no.
It was the old Xbox 360 controller. It just went
flew
up in the air. So don't ever
I
rage
don't-
quit.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I did. As I'm the same as Peter. The only time I ever came close to rage quitting was Batman Arkham Asylum. What did they call them? The
challenge
something
modes,
challenges.
the fighting challenges,
Yeah,
combat
it was like the
challenge.
last trophy, right?
Yeah, no,
No,
it's never again.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It's extreme
Because
because one of the things you have to get is like 60 or 80 hit combos.
Yeah,
and
something like
crap
that.
like that.
I know use all his moves in his list.
In one go.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to mention the racing genre on PS1, and there's a couple of like phenomenal games come out, racing games. We talked about one earlier, and that was Formula One, and I think even Formula 197 even improved on that. But one of the first real great racing games that I ever played was Colin McRae Rally.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like for me, like the whole rally experience and stuff like that, that game was phenomenal. I remember like I got that game and I didn't play any other game for at least, it must have been about 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
just
good.
absolutely incredible game. And I remember, do you remember Peter, we had the Mad Cat steering wheel with
Yeah,
that? It was just,
that steering was epic with that game.
and I always remember me and you in your house.
Yeah.
We would just take the stages one at a time.
Yeah.
I do one, you do
Yeah.
one, and we just completed
Yeah,
the game that way.
yeah.
And I think
that was
visually
fast.
as well. I think visually that was a like really really good looking
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, that's.
And I think it was the first true like Sega Rally was arcade and we had VR Rally, but Colin McRae was just it like it got that rally.
The funny thing is that
experience
a lot of stuff that I do see on the internet as well, like they do reference like the best types of racing games. Like even though Colin McRae 2 was a ground up, like say it was massive, like in terms of graphics for the PS1, it was easily one of the best looking games. But Colin McRae 1 is always the game that's referenced when it comes to rally games because it set the standard for pretty much every rally game you see now today. You know, it really did, like in its own right.
Not even that, to play that game, you had to have an air of skill about
Oh
you
yeah,
as well.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Because
Couldn't just
it was one of the
couldn't
first
just put the
real.
foot down and go.
It was one of the first real simulation style racing games.
Yes.
that was out
Well,
there.
you think of the elements, like
Yeah.
you had the Sweden levels with snow, and it was very much different to
Yeah.
racing. Was it Monte Carlo that
Yeah.
was the tarmac?
Do you remember the demo I got for my 16th birthday, Dig? And that was the demo that had a load. It was actually WCW Nitro on it. There was Colin McRae. There was a demo of Gran Turismo. There was a load of. That was one of the best demo magazines that I'd ever gotten. But I do remember playing the Monte Carlo one. Then you came over like, "Oh, Peter, can I have a load of that?" And you went off for an hour or two, and he came back. He's like, "Dude, do you know there's 2 other tracks in this?" I'm like, "Go ahead of that." Nah. And he's like, "Yeah, no." He says, you boot the game up again and it's random. It'll load up extra tracks." And I'm like, "Can't." And he showed me, and we went and we sat and played. And I'm like, "Holy crap!" And we sat and we played for another 2 or 3 hours, just going through all the tracks again. We just had a blast.
Couldn't wait then for the full game.
And that was the thing. That demo kept us going until they said the game came out because there was so much just in the demos. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I think another racing game I'd like to mention, one of our favourites, Need for Speed 3.
Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah.
That game took me away from Gran Turismo.
That was the first game
I
to
liked
take
it
you
that
away from
much.
Gran Turismo, yeah.
That's a big statement right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was hooked on Gran Turismo, but then
Yeah, you were.
Need for Speed 3 came out and it actually, like, I loved it. I loved the whole idea of like getting chased by the cops and all that there. But it like visually it wasn't as striking as Gran Turismo, but it still looked
It
really
still was
good.
a good looking game, yeah.
And do you remember the tracks had little shortcuts hidden?
Yeah.
I loved all that. Like just it was a really,
Need for
really
Speed
good
had
game.
something about it. There was a vibe about Need for Speed, like even with the music and the elements. There was something about the old Need for Speed games that stood out that you didn't see in other games.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. Because even with, I remember going on to even the sequel that came out a year later with the one that you had was the American one, High Stakes, but which was called Road Challenge over here. That had the same kind of vibe. And it was awesome. It was really, really cool as well. Yeah. But Need for Speed 3 definitely was, because I remember we were over. You went over to America with your mum, and I remember you was actually buying me the American versions of the. It was a package. Because I was looking after you as a house. I remember a couple of years later, and I was in college at the time. I remember you just went off and you asked me to look after your house, and I remember you was actually getting me a collection of Need for Speed 3 Road Challenge or High Stakes and Porsche Unleashed, which was Porsche 2000 or Porsche Unleashed, depending on the region.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, could I get it working on the PC? And they actually worked on the PC, and the PC versions were unbelievable. The graphics, everything, they were just Yeah, I remember being addicted to Need for Speed 3 all over again with the PC version.
Yeah, it was class.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Like the PS1 is it's not short of amazing racing type games.
Amazing games, yeah.
And I think I like just briefly mentioned Toka World Touring Cars. That was
I was
incredible.
literally about to say that game.
That's from Codemasters as well.
Codemasters.
I remember one weekend, Veddy, just when I'm thinking of it there is another game I'm going to mention in a minute, but I remember you had moved house, you were living down wherever you were living, and it was 98, 99. It was 98, and I remember me and you sat a whole weekend and literally played through the entire championship of Toka. Me and you just literally sat and played it. So we did, and both of us were addicted to it because we did the same. We would take a race each and just play through it.
Stage, yeah.
Yeah, and the two of us loved playing that.
It's not even that, when you looked at the weather elements in that game as well.
So realistic.
Yeah, that's what it was famous for, right?
Yeah.
It was one of the first games to introduce not dynamic weather, but it the stage was set prior.
Yeah.
I loved that game, Toka Touring Cars. I actually really did.
It was, yeah.
I actually loved it.
There's another game I just briefly want to mention, just real quick, just before whatever. Do you remember, Veddy, one weekend you got a loan of, remember the third Ridge Racer game, Rage Racer?
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and you remember me and you sat the entire weekend and we played that a ton because
you could mod the cars.
You could mod the cars and you could actually you could upgrade, but it was the first racing game that we played that you could actually earn money by constantly racing. It had almost like an RPG element to it where you
were like in a racing team.
Yeah,
and you had to get to the championship.
Yeah, I remember me and you playing the hell out of that game for the weekend. The two of us loved that game as well.
That was good.
Yeah, that was a really, really good game. That to me is one of my favourite racing games. Funnily enough, I was playing Ridge Racer 2 because the PSP version is now on the PlayStation 5, and I downloaded it this morning just recording this, and I was like, oh, I have to play this again. And lo and behold, as you go through it, you have the tracks from the original Ridge Racer, there's Ridge Racer Revolution, and as I play through the game, the tracks from Ridge Racer's in it. And I'm like, oh yes, sweet. Big smile came on my face and just brought me back to all that. Then I was like, I remember when we first played it. So
that's an old school one.
Yeah.
No,
awesome.
It was good. That was a great game. I remember even the amount of cars you could get.
Yeah.
And the fact they were all fully customizable, paint jobs to your brakes and everything.
Because I remember you used to spend, because you were always mad into like the vanity kind of style of things. I remember literally every game that we used to play, regardless whether it was football or whatever, you'd spend all your time going in, tweaking all how the team shirt looks or how the visuals, or you'd put up the vinyl wraps in the car, put the logos, you put them on decals, and you would spend more time on doing that than you actually. You would spend more time customizing stuff than actually playing.
I was never into that.
Yeah,
I'd be trying to make my character or car and everything more powerful, stronger, blah blah. But Veddy, no. If it looks
I
good,
might have been back of the grid, but I was top of the grid in looks, boys.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna miss you anyway.
Finish first. I'm gonna finish in style.
Yeah,
exactly. That's it.
Yeah, nobody was gonna miss you. That was for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it was good.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to think of any other racing games that around the PS1, because my memory's not too great. I always get mixed up.
But I think I'm going to leave it for another episode. There is one in particular, but no, I'll leave that for another one.
Right, no worries.
There's still there's so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to round them off, but we won't talk about it. We'll move on to another topic. But you've got we'll talk about the likes of Wipeout 2087, Gran Turismo, the really big hitters. We'll talk about them another.
Destruction Derby 2 is another one we have to
Destruction Derby 2.
Yeah.
Then you have Driver, which was
Driver. Oh my god, I forgot about that. That was fucking brilliant.
There's absolutely loads. You have got Roll Cage was a great game.
Yeah, Roll Cage is awesome.
There's just, I don't know if you remember Jet Moto. I actually enjoyed Jet Moto.
It
was from the same crowd that designed Twisted Metal. I remember we rented that out one weekend and we loved that as well. It was a great multiplayer game as well.
It was what did they call those?
It was like a jet ski kind of thing, but it was all futuristic. It was all futuristic. Like that was brilliant.
Yeah, it was good. And you have the test drive games, and I wasn't a massive fan of them, but
we were addicted to Test Drive 5, Dig, if you remember.
Yeah.
You had it, and it was cool.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I got a dodgy copy.
You didn't even have to play through the campaigns. There was literally over 100 cars to unlock, if not more. I think 150 cars, but you could unlock them just doing quick races if you won the quick races modes.
Yeah.
Just doing the single races, you can unlock a load of the cars.
Yeah.
And you'd all cool cars as well, because you'd like Pontiac GTOs, Nissan Skylines, Chevy Camaros. You'd literally every big muscle car or sports car, it was in the game. Like, it was awesome. Plus, it had a really cool soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying, like, Porsche Unleashed, when it was released over here, it was just called that, right? But in America, it was Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, right?
Yeah, it was
Porsche
2000 in other regions. So
Yeah,
it was,
I remember that now.
Yeah.
That was a good game. That was early days, right?
It was the last Need for Speed to be released on the PS1. It was a good game, but I always preferred Need for Speed 3 and High Stakes. They are my two favourite Need for Speeds on the PS1. But they are technically the best anyway. But I didn't know until later on that, depending on the regions, I remember playing, like, with my YouTube channel, I was testing this stuff before. Need for Speed is called Overdriven in Japan. And I didn't realise that, and depending on the version of the game that you get, and the Japanese version, you could get access to the R34 GTR Skyline in the Japanese version, but you couldn't get it over here. But in Australia, you got access to was it the Ford Falcon in that version of the game. But again, it wasn't in the European region, so there was different unlockables depending on the region that you played. So that in itself was pretty cool.
Was Need for Speed Underground PS1 or PS2?
PS2.
Yeah.
PS2, right?
Yeah.
It was actually one of the first PS2 games I think I got.
Was it? The soundtrack of that game was top notch.
Yeah. They were really, really good. Really good.
Yeah. So there's only one more game that I wanted to mention tonight, and then we'll wrap things up. One of the best FPSs, I think, back in the day, Medal of Honor.
Oh
yeah. Medal of Honor was awesome. Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant. That game.
I think that was one of the first games to really kind of bring FPS games to a new standard, because it had a story, but it also had a movie kind of style quality to it as well.
Oh, Saving Private Ryan vibes all the way.
Oh yeah.
It did, yeah. Because am I right in saying the first level was you were storming the beaches of Normandy?
It was Normandy. Yeah.
And it was it was crazy
myself.
at the time, you know.
Yeah, you seen guys getting their legs blown off, and all, you're like, holy God!
But it was actually one of the best.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure wasn't one of the boys that was involved in Call of Duty later on involved in Medal of Honor.
Yeah, because the Medal of Honor games originally, I think they actually set the formula for what Call of Duty was going to become.
Yeah, those boys
They kind of set the formula to what every FPS is going to be. You know what I mean? It escalated to other people that can build from that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely. No, I remember
it was a phenomenal game.
But like, I remember even that when I was storming the beach in that level, you were scared to move in points because you were like, I don't know if I'm going to get hit with artillery here.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I just remember it being chaotic, that first level. Like, you were scared to move. You were just like, if I move, I'm just going to get shelled out of it.
Exactly. Or like, I'm going to get gunned down, and then there's barbed wire, and then, there's Frank over there. He's bleeding out. Oh, jeez.
Crying for his mama.
He's like, Mama. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, Mama ain't going to save you. Die. As long as I'm hiding behind the bunker, I'm safe.
I know.
Then again, you weren't safe.
Yeah. And then you get later on, there was no level where there was like a sniper as well that was trying to snipe your team as well.
Yes.
And that was another one you were like, I'm not going out there. Forget it.
Are you crazy? I'm not going out there.
It's like, here,
I'm going
home. We should play rock, paper, scissors, and whoever loses sticks their head out, alright?
Yeah.
I'm sure probably did that in real life too.
Probably.
Medal of Honor was that was absolutely incredible, that game.
The only thing,
it really was.
Was it Medal of Honor 1 or Medal of Honor 2 that had the guy on the cover that looked at double of Michael Owen?
It might have been.
Google that.
Are you looking at appearances now?
No, I'm serious. I remember looking at the cover and going, is that Michael Owen?
I just looked at it there a few minutes ago. No, Medal of Honor Underground has a woman on the front cover.
I'm looking this up. Medal of Honor. I gotta find
Michael Owen.
No, I gotta show you.
You can't play with him.
Medal of Honor, the first one. The image I see
no
here
good Medal of Honor. He'd run up the beach and pull a hamstring. He'd be no good.
He was one too. He obviously pulled a hamstring.
I need to find this now because you all think I'm mental.
Well, Medal of Honors, the cover I have in front of me here for the first game is a guy holding a rocket launcher.
There it is. I'm going to send it to you now, right? And
what is it? Medal of Honor what?
It's Medal of Honor Rising Sun. Check it out.
All right.
Check it out.
Rising Sun, that's the second one.
I have to look at this.
Is it?
I'd tell you. It's Michael Owen. He was injured.
That's the second one.
That was a PS2. That was
I'm a lion though.
No.
Oh, it's not real, is it?
Yeah,
Hold on, there, because
it looks.
you send it to me.
Look, a
Yeah,
wee
that
I'll
one
put-
came out on the PS2. Yeah.
Yeah, hang on 2 seconds.
Oh, hold on.
I'll send it to Steve-O, so he knows I'm not talking crap.
Hold on, I have to get a Google this.
Right.
He's holding a gun, pointing
They're
up to the
saying Mickey
sky.
Owen, he's holding a gun because he can't run, his legs are bucked, he's both hamstrings done, he's all like, ah.
Oh, goddamn.
See?
Yeah.
Well, he's not holding a trophy anyway.
If he was in Pro Evo, he'd be Michael Oren.
Michael
Yeah.
Oren, he's storming the beaches.
Michael Oren. Oh, that in Pro
Oh,
Evo.
jeez.
The fake
I
names.
know, yeah. Telling you,
Yeah.
Rivaldi.
Yeah.
That's
No,
all.
no. I think that's everything covered for tonight's episode. So I think we should wrap this one up. That's definitely
On
a
that
two-parter
bombshell.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Michael Owen has killed the vibe.
Yeah, sorry, Rivaldi. That's usually what
Well, I'm
happens.
going, I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, you're not
sure.
too far wrong, and now in fairness.
Yeah, it does
Thanks,
look like
Steve.
that.
Let's
Thank
be
you.
fucking honest. You ain't too far wrong.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait till I go
Right.
next week. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. He's in this.
I
Yeah,
can't
well,
wait to see that
underground.
one.
Jesus.
Oh, jeez.
Right. Okay, so I think we'll wrap this one up, guys. Thanks to everybody for contributing tonight to the recording. I think that's definitely going to be a two-parter. And we are not finished.
There'll be
so
more.
we're definitely, yeah, there'll be more. So look out for
That's
the
it.
next episode. So I think all that's left to say is thanks, guys, and thank you to everybody that's listened. And yeah, we'll look out for the next episode, the follow-up episode to this PS1 podcast.
And thanks, Michael
Absolutely.
Owen, for being a Medal of Honor.
Yes, Michael Owen. All right, guys.
Right,
You
Thanks,
stole
everyone.
the show.
right, everybody.
Yeah.
See you soon.
See you later.
See ya.
Thank you, everybody. Thank
All
you.
right. Cheers.
Bye bye.